Hey guys, Andrew Esquivel here, back with another update on my, holding tank. Well, here's the thing. It was supposed to be a holding tank for my food, and these little fish are essentially supposed to be the food for my food, but I'm kind of starting to like it better as a concept for just watching the fish do their fishy things. Because here's the thing, all these fish have adapted remarkably well to tank life. I mean, they are genuinely cohabitating with each other without a single problem. And in fact, they're starting to act and behave just like typical aquarium fish. I mean, they're not skittish in the slightest. When they see me come in the room, they all go towards the top of the tank because they know I'm going to feed them. They've adapted completely to off-the-shelf aquarium food, and they're just happy, curious, exploratory fish. And you know what? They're actually a lot more fun to watch than regular aquarium fish. They've got more personality. They've got more pizzazz. And because of that, I almost feel like maybe I'll just keep this as a wild tank. I don't know how I feel about that yet, because I had a genuine purpose for this. And now it feels like I've gone so far left field that I don't know anymore, man. Because here's the thing. I've got bluegills, blackstriped top minnows, banded killifish. I've got one crawdad in there, a rusty crayfish in there. And they all do very well. They don't bother each other. They kind of school together pretty well as well. They're all about the same size. The bluegills definitely have the capability of growing much larger than what they are currently, and at some point they will eventually be too big for this tank, but that will take a number of years. You may have noticed I've added some things like that right there. That is an old UV filter of mine, because as wild fish come into this, they can bring whatever pathogens are in the natural waters of the lake. The UV filter not only helps keep the algae and bacteria in check, but it kills and sterilizes anything in the water, which is incredibly important. And you may notice it's all kind of jerried up right here, and you might be wondering, well, why? Well, here's the thing. This UV filter has a piece missing to it, and that bottom piece is what helps guide the flow of water and cover the bottom part of the UV filter that has the light under it. So the light is actually exposed. See, there's little fins, like little grates right there on the side. Water enters through there, goes down to the bottom, and then gets sucked up through the UV filter area where the light is. Well, that little plastic piece on the bottom is gone. My friend lost it when I let him borrow this, and yeah. We can't just have any old plastic exposed to UV light, because UV light will disintegrate most plastics, or at least a number of them. So we have this situation where, in order to make use of this at all, we have PVC that we cut up so that we can kind of wrap it around and, get some use out of this UV filter, because it's a really powerful UV filter. It's good for upwards of 150 gallon tanks, and this is the 55. And as you can see, and I purposely did not clean this tank because I want to show you, like, all the bacterial blooms and all the algae that still builds up. Some of this is actual genuine bacterial blooms, which is actually a healthy sign in this case for the bacteria that we have in the media, or in the filter, I should say. And the filter's doing remarkably well. The water is just so clean and perfect in this tank. Yeah, there's obviously some cosmetic blemishes with bacteria blooms popping up here and there, and a little bit of algae and stuff. But even with the UV filter, It's a 13-watt bulb. I still get algae buildup, but it's a lot better now, and I think it's actually bacterial blooms, not algae. And here's why. I tried it with the lights on and off, and no matter what, I was still getting a ton of bacterial bloom. And once I added the UV filter, it wasn't nearly as bad, but I still have to clean it out regularly. But I guess more bacteria is better than not enough. And I plan on catching some more fish for this tank, because I know for a fact that there is at least 2 more fish that would go perfect in this tank in the same exact area where I caught all of these little guys. There's some shiners, and then there's another fish I have yet to identify, but it's the first time I've seen it in the area. It's all silver, silver, not gills. I forget what you call them. I'm having a brain fart. You have to excuse me. Well, the whole body is silver. Let's put it like that. And it's really neat. And I caught one, but when I caught it, it was already on the end of its life. It had been through some trauma. Scales. That's what I was looking at. Scales. Silver scales all over its body. So there are shiners and these things with silver scales all over them, and I think they go perfect in this tank. Now, I could also catch a round goby and put it in the tank, but I'm not going to do that, and here's why. Round gobies are... okay, let me keep this family friendly. They're bullies. They're absolute meanies. They will harass the crud out of all these fish, and they will just straight up attack them until they get stressed and then eat them. And yeah, gobies are mean. So, despite the fact that I had Toby the goby for a while, he was a solitary fish, so he could really only be with himself. And gobies are fun. They are goofy, charismatic fish. And despite the fact, yes, the round goby, they do have a kill-on-sight law, so that's another reason that I don't know if I can really even bring them in without causing some sort of legal controversy. So, you know, for that reason, I'm just going to avoid the round goby altogether, even though I know I can catch one. Because I just don't think it's going to be a suitable tank mate for all these other fish. Gobies are kind of bottom feeders. These fish are all... well, they're top feeders. They go to the top, the surface, to get their food. Or at least they've learned that behavior. But, yeah, I mean, everything is going pretty nice. And I can go out at any time of the night and catch more fish. But I have a rule. I never go by myself for safety reasons. Because the area where I go to is a little bit out of the way. And if you get hurt and you're by yourself, you're kind of out of luck. So, I gotta be very careful, and in the dead of night, it's generally around 12 midnight to 2 a.m. that I go and get these fish, because that's when they're all sleeping at the shoreline, and that's when they're super, super easy to catch. So, you know, like I said, this was originally supposed to be a holding tank for a big catfish or a bass, so that I can flavor up their meat and eat them. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't getting attached to these little guys. That's why I got them bloodworms, this giant can of bloodworms right here. They all go straight for them. It's a great diet for these guys. And they enjoy it. And I honestly think they're happy fish. I don't see them being lethargic or depressed or anything like that. They're swimming around, and I'm honestly considering going to the spot to get some wood. Some driftwood that might just be lying around, sterilize the crud out of it, and maybe decorate it. Maybe I will just end up having a straight-up wild fish tank every year, because, you know, they're just so goofy. Oh, there goes the crayfish. Yeah, I don't know yet. It's kind of a hard decision. It's a problem when you get attached to the wild fish, and it's hard not to. And if there weren't so many of them in here, I probably wouldn't be attached to them. but the fact that there's so many different fish in here, and I know I can get a larger variety, and they'll all cohabitate with each other perfectly, I just don't know anymore. But hey, at least I got a nice purpley centerpiece. I mean, it's a fake plant, but, you know, whatever. So, yeah. Don't know what to do. I've got to get my feelings in check here. I guess I'm becoming less of an angler and more of an aquarist.